Wilde was born Olivia Jane Cockburn in New York City on March 10, 1984. She was raised in the Georgetown neighborhood of Washington, D.C. and then attended private school at Georgetown Day School in Washington, D.C. and boarding school at Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts, graduating in 2002. Wilde derives her surname from Irish author Oscar Wilde, and began using it while in high school to honor writers in her family, many of whom used pseudonyms. She was accepted to Bard College, but postponed her enrollment 3 times to pursue acting. Then she studied at the Gaiety School of Acting in Dublin. If you fall off a horse, you get back up. I am not a quitter. I am so saddened and grossed out by young women who look like creepy, old aliens because of their new Barbie noses and lips. Is that a smile or a grimace? Documentaries are a powerful and effective way of bridging the gap between worlds, breaking through to new audiences that wouldn't otherwise be engaged, in essence, not preaching to the choir. I think it's very healthy to spend time alone. You need to know how to be alone and not be defined by another person. Believe it or not, I'm a big fan of patchouli oil. I know it's not a universally liked fragrance. I usually combine it with other essential oils. I have many mixtures I like. The mark of a good marriage is partnership and continuing to feel inspired by your spouse. I had that with Tao. But the end is not necessarily the tragedy. Staying in a relationship that is no longer working is the tragedy. Living unhappily, that's the tragedy. I trust work, directors, I don't live in fear. All good experiences have come from trusting the universe. There is no other way to live or love. Otherwise, you create your own prison. Documentaries are a powerful and effective way of bridging the gap between worlds, breaking through to new audiences that wouldn't otherwise be engaged, in essence, not preaching to the choir. I read so many things because a colleague or a friend will post something, and I'll be able to learn a tremendous amount only because they drew attention to it. So I try to do that for others. And that's the great thing about social media. It's not always a narcissistic cesspool or waste of time. At the end of your 20s, you realize you are inherently flawed, and that's great, and that's what makes you dynamic. Fear of carbs, of gluten, of everything, we've distanced ourselves from the beauty of food, the art of it. It makes me sad when people say, oh, I don't eat gluten. I don't eat cheese. I don't eat this. So I eat cardboard. I'm opening up my heart to the idea of dating. It's funny, my friends would always come to me for romantic advice. I know nothing, and things have changed since I was dating in high school. I'm really trying hard to spend this time working on myself. Once I took a bus from my home in Maryland to Philadelphia to live on the streets with some musicians for a few weeks, and then my parents sent me to boarding school at Andover to shape me up. It's so important to have that independence. You know it yourself, everyone needs evenings of their own. I got an internship with the casting director of The Girl Next Door. I would hold the clipboard and help them in their casting sessions and get them lunch. Mick Jagger has produced some great films and brought us stories about the music industry that have changed the way we think about how music is made. I never thought I would actually call him my boss, let alone meet Mick Jagger or have any reason to say my name in the same sentence as his. I guess for my skin, I clean it and moisturize and try to drink water. How boring is this though? I'm convinced that it comes from within. If you're happy and healthy, it shows. Cleanses and products don't make you look more beautiful. They certainly help, but if you reach contentment, you're set. My makeup artist, Melanie Iglesias, couldn't figure out why my skin looks so good. I think it's because I'm happy. The thing that's wonderful about social media is that we are able to give a voice to the voiceless and to help educate each other. I benefit from it as much as I provide those lessons. It's really kind of a luxury for an actor to have the opportunity to show such different types of characters. I actually left Cowboys and Aliens and went straight into The Change-Up. It was kind of a funny change of pace. Weakness is something we don't like to admit we have. We hold it against people until we experience it, and then we feel more compassion for it. I don't own a scale, and Tao banned the word fat from our house. If we eat too much, we say, I feel clogged up. There are so many young women in film school right now, and it's just about foreign sales companies, domestic sales companies agreeing to finance films directed by and starring women. I was a tomboy and I didn't have a bunch of brothers, but I always wanted them, and so I sort of adopted a few of my great friends to be my brother. Many casting directors won't hire aspiring actors because you might be burning some chick's headshot under the table so she doesn't get the part. A lot of people assume that women of a certain age who are not unattractive have no excuse for not having a perfect life. But you can have emotional baggage that is dragging you down like cement blocks tied to your feet. It would be so depressing to be a model and not get to say a word. There's no personality involved. You really just have to love the process. I can't tell you the amount of film sets I've been on where people are talking about Oscars in the middle of the production. It happens all the time. So many people have said that to me, that what they really like about Alex is what she brings out in Marissa, and what this situation brings out in her, a hint of happiness and another side to her character. People have nervous tics they don't know about, and I would advise asking around. Ask the casting director, is there something I'm doing? I would see people unconsciously rocking back and forth. I roll my lips. I bite my lips and roll them. I'm in no way suggesting that my opinion matters more than anyone else's, of course, but the only thing that bothers me is apathy. People that sit out of the process and complain about it, or pretend that politics isn't a part of their everyday lives. When I was 28, I made this film called Drinking Buddies that I starred in and produced, and we improvised the entire thing, and it was a complete exercise in freedom of expression in making something for only the purpose of making it, not for recognition or money or anything else, and it's still my favorite thing I've ever done. Early on, I knew I had ideas, but I wasn't sure when it was appropriate to bring them to the table, and I was so intimidated by these titans that I was working for. But it started around the time of Tron, when I was really excited by the creative process and the prep that went into that. I spoke up often at those writing sessions. It's interesting having a son. Someone told me that it's good when you have a son first because when you have a daughter first and then a son, you think your son's slow. A lot of parents freak out because they've seen a daughter progress so quickly, and they think their male child is, like, damaged. But boys are just naturally slow.